Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Beyond the Saga, where we explore all of those expanded universe stories beyond the Skywalker saga. I am your host, David Cunningham. With me, as always, Hannah Burr. How are you tonight, Hannah?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Ready to dive into the second book of the Kanan comic series.
Technically, it's canon.
It is canon. Well, yes, it is canon. There's some things that have been retconned a little bit, but not from this book necessarily, because there's a lot of story in this book that we'll get into. But this is the final book of this Kanan comic series. Now, there was only 12 issues. If you go back to our playlist, you can catch us talking about the first 6 issues. That was part of the book Kanan, the Last Padawan. But this book is called Kanan, First Blood. So again, issues 7 through 12 of that comic series. And if you remember from our first discussion with the first 6 issues, it was basically a retelling of Order 66. Mm-hmm. The experience that Kanan Caleb Doom, as he was known as a Padawan, his experience with Order 66 and surviving, and how he became to be who we know him to be in Star Wars Rebels. This book it picks up where we left off as far as the Rebel storyline, because there is a Rebel storyline going on in these books too, right? These are kind of flashbacks to his time on Collar in the first book, and then this one has his time getting trained under Depa and fighting in the Clone Wars a little bit. So it's a good, again, retelling of his background as well as Depa Bilaba's. So a lot to dive into. Hannah, overall though, what was your first overall impressions of this book?
I just love the fact that we get to learn more about Caleb. And we get to see how really a powerful a Jedi he was. And how he's almost had to learn from himself, but also we got to learn about his master Depa. So for me, this was it was fun. It was jam-packed, full of adventure, but it brought a lot of realism to it and the realistic aspects of war. Because we do see Caleb experiencing his first kill, his first great loss, and his reactions to it, which is terrifying, not gonna lie. So because of all of that, because to me, whenever I was a kid watching Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and learning about the Jedi Council, it seemed like this was something that was just unachievable, because they weren't really people you could connect with. It didn't feel like they shared the same experiences as you. But I feel like with Caleb, he experiences different things that each of us can connect with: anger, loss of a loved one, respect, joy, immaturity.
Right.
So to me, his character just helps make the Jedi feel like they're more real people than they are this different group. That's personally what I'm taking from this comic series, especially this book. That's just my personal takeaway, but that's in general what it's about as well.
That's perfect. And I think, taking it one step further, I think you really, we've seen, especially with, I feel like, Obi-Wan and Anakin, of course, but even, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan a little bit, we've gotten that master-apprentice relationship. And, of course, the ultimate being Obi-Wan and Anakin, and, of course, the tragedy of Anakin to Vader. But this book especially, as well as the other one, I mean, we get a really intimate look at this relationship between Depa and Caleb, and how they came to be, because it wasn't as simple as just her picking him as her Padawan. I mean, there were reasons behind that. We got introduced to a very tragic backstory of Depa. You know, we tend to think of these Jedi obviously as emotionless in a sense, right? Because you know, as Yoda famously says, you have to let go, you know, of your feelings. But as we learn in this book, you know, without giving too much away, I mean, Depa experienced a lot of loss. I mean, she wasn't the best general on the field of one of her battles. And she is haunted by that feeling of losing those clones. You know, I just don't feel like, especially in the Clone Wars, you know, we do get to, in the show, we do get to know a lot of these clones, and we feel a little personal connection with them, especially guys like Rex and Cody and Jesse and Fives and now the Bad Batch. And it's like, you feel for these guys and you don't want to lose them. But for some reason, I feel like some of us tend to, as fans, forget that the Jedis are the ones fighting alongside of them, and you know, they're soldiers, so they're there to fight and possibly die. And but you know, I don't think we give the Jedi enough credit to where, you know, even though they're trained to let go, but man, things like that have to affect them, you know. And you can tell with her, she is affected by what happened to her.
I think that vulnerability, I mean, you mentioned a very important point, because I feel like that vulnerability that she shares with Caleb, I mean, you see it in Kanan in Rebels.
That's
all
right.
this stuff with Ezra. Like, this isn't much of a spoiler, especially with what you mentioned, but at one point she goes, "Am I broken goods? I guess I am."
Yes.
But she's not okay with it, but she's okay with it. She's like, you know, that's just that is what it is. It doesn't mean I'm any less of a person. And I feel like Caleb takes that when he becomes Kanan and he's training Ezra. And does he say the same words? No. But Ezra doesn't feel like he deserves any of this. And he's like, no, you do. Like, okay, you screwed up. Big whoop. Let's keep going. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't define who we are. What defines who we are is what we do with it. So I think in that vulnerability that we don't normally see with a lot of Jedi, it gave Caleb the greatest lesson he could ever learn.
Yeah, that's very true. And that's what really just drew me more into this story was the backstory of Depa and the depth of what she's been through. And it's just so funny because we feel like you get to know this character so deeply, and she's never even spoken a line in a movie, you know, or in a TV show or anything. Well, actually, I think she's in the Clone Wars now, and she's been in there, but you know, live action, we see her in the movies in live action, but she doesn't speak. But there's a lot there in that character. And Kanan, you know, like you just said too, I think it does truly translate really well to how Kanan is training Ezra and the protection that he's trying to instill on him. And you know, this is a tragic story of what happens leading up to Order 66. So like I said, it's very action packed. There's several battles in here. There's a couple missions that they go on together, and of course, we do get a couple cameos, right, in this book.
That we do. We get Vice Admiral. Yeah, Vice Admiral Sloan.
Yes.
And then we also get General Grievous, which I just want to say, in this book, it just made me realize how much of an idiot General Grievous really is.
Please explain.
So, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was actually a little slightly disappointed that this happened in the comic book, but he does, what he does with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He gets his 4 arms out with lightsabers, and then he gets 2 of his hands cut off. And I'm like,
when are you gonna learn?
It kind of takes the fight with Kenobi and makes it go, well, it's not that impressive anymore.
Right. If every Jedi does that, yeah, it's.
Although I will say, I think the redeeming quality is that after he loses 2 of his hands to Obi-Wan Kenobi, he flees or tries to get out of there. So at least there's some lesson learning, but you would think he would have tried something different.
Right.
Or something. But yeah, when that happened, I was just like, really?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think you would think with 4 lightsabers, if I've got 4 of them and you've got 1, I've got to be able to hit you somehow. Especially
if you've been trained to use a lightsaber and trained in the Force.
Trained by Dooku, no less, right?
Exactly. You would think.
Yeah, you would think.
But
and then the Sloane thing is interesting. It is a brief cameo, but obviously the Sloane thing happens in the Rebels timeline part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
If those of you that haven't read A New Dawn, which is the prequel book to the Rebels TV show, Sloane is in that book as well. That's what kind of Kanan is referencing in this book. But we just recently talked about Sloane being an Aftermath series. I mean, this woman is a very popular character. I think she's growing with these stories. These authors are finding ways to fit her in to all parts of the timeline. I mean, you're talking pre-episode 4, after episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's a high. Man, I don't know. I would say it's a good probability that she could even show up in a live action part of Mandalorian.
Oh, especially if Thrawn's involved.
Absolutely.
Yes, she probably will.
Mm-hmm. I think it's inevitable. I think the popularity of her, the popularity of Dr. Aphra, with Hera, I think these women are definitely going to show up live action at some point.
I can't wait for Dr. Aphra to show up. That's all I gotta say.
I totally. You can make a whole series of movies with just Aphra. She's kind of the Indiana Jones of this universe. Archaeologist looking for artifacts.
Oh yeah.
Or a Disney Plus series. Why aren't they making a Disney Plus series of her?
Come on, Disney, get on it.
Right. Okay, so overall ratings, how would you rate this book? I don't know what we rated the first book, but maybe mention the first book too.
I think the first book I would give, after reading this, I would probably give the first book a 4. I would give this a 4.5.
Wow, good. That's high.
It's that good.
It is pretty good. I'll probably go with you on that, because I think the first book was a 4 and this was slightly better. So I think 4.5 is right. I think it's near perfect. It's really good. It's a really good insight. Even though, look, we talked about in the first covering the first book. Look, some of it's probably not true anymore. The retcon of Order 66 with the Bad Batch series kind of changed some things about it, but the overall story is there that Depa died in Order 66 and Kanan or Caleb survived. And how that happened is maybe a little different, but it happened. And as far as we know, this book is fully canon right now. Yeah. So, except she does have a green lightsaber in this still.
That's the only exception.
That's the only exception, right? But fantastic books. I will tell you, I actually looked up this book on Amazon, both the Kanan books, and they are hard to find right now. You can't actually buy them right now. So, unfortunately, you might have to get them digitally on your Comixologies or something like that, or Marvel.com. But if you can get those read, they are great stories.
Mm-hmm.
So to wrap this up, then, Hannah, overall, I think what's your thoughts now of Kanan and your perception of Kanan and Rebels now that you've read these books on his backstory? Anything different, really?
I just think I have a greater respect for him. I don't know. I feel, for me with Rebels, I didn't like it as much as I like Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. But I feel like because of reading these comics, I like Kanan more. I think it's because I have a better idea of his background and where he came from versus exactly what he tells Ezra. And I just think if you're looking for someone who has a good balance of light and dark of the Force, and someone who, in my opinion, is an example of what a Jedi should be, it's Kanan. Mm-hmm. It's not Luke. At least at this point, it's not Luke. It's Kanan. And I think he should be the prime example of what a true Jedi should look like.
That's it. That's interesting. That actually sounds like a council session debate there.
Yeah, there you go. Who is the true Jedi?
Who's the true Jedi?
You think about it, because the Jedi Council was wrong in the sense of they said, let go of all attachments. The Sith are wrong in saying, like, let that fuel everything you do. And I think Kanan found the perfect balance of both of them. And I really think Depa helped him that way. Because if we take a look at her, she's not emotionless, as we said. Mm-hmm. She knows how to keep her composure around the other Jedi. But when she's with Caleb, she's completely herself. She's very transparent. She's not trying to hide anything. That's true. That's just my opinion, is that for me, it makes me go, yeah, Kanan is your ideal Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, for me, I think I'm just like you. I liked Rebels a lot, but I loved Clone Wars. And I'm loving the Bad Batch. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, look, the bottom line is, as of right now, I think I'm correct in saying this, we only know of two people that have survived this long from Order 66. Kanan and Ahsoka.
Grogu.
You're right. Grogu has survived, although
if Fallen Jedi Order is canon.
Yeah, well, we don't know how far Cal has survived yet. So we know he survived at least 5 years.
I take that back. That is true.
But this, as far as like 19 years, leading up to the episode 4, which Kanan obviously dies right before, but to survive and to change your identity and choose a different lifestyle to hide who you are, and all that stuff. There's just I think now that we know his full situation, I think it's very, it's very, how do I say it? Respectable, on how he has done it. And the fact, that it's been 14 or 15 years before he trains Ezra, to be able to rehash those memories. And now we know what kind of pain he went through and understand that more. I think it does lend itself a lot to what we see in Rebels and his relationship with Ezra. And of course, like you said, his relationship with Hera. it definitely makes him a stronger character. I totally believe that. I think this book definitely makes him an even deeper, a deeper character with a lot more going on in his heart and his head than we ever thought would be. So,
absolutely,
strong series.
Yes, very much so.
And it's been out there a while, so hopefully you guys can go get it. This got published on this book after the series got wrapped up, and this single issues. This got printed in 2016, May of 2016.
Oh wow! Okay.
Almost, 5 years, almost a little over 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So it was after this came out, I think, between seasons 1 and 2 of Rebels.
Okay.
So you watched the first season of Rebels, and then this book came out. These books came out. All right. So interesting. Go read those books and go check out us on YouTube for more Beyond the Sagas, where we dive into all these stories. And we appreciate everybody. You can, of course, listen to us, or you can watch us. And we will be back shortly with the next comic series or novel. You never know which one yet. We don't know. We're just doing them all. Right?
Oh, yes. All of them.
As always, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. See you next time. May the Force be with you.